Fire Lindy. Huh? Hmm? Oh, we already did that, and we still lost, and still gave up the first goal, and the goaltender still wasn't great. And there was a different guy behind the bench. Oh, he was already behind the bench before, but we just have one guy that was back there that's no longer back there. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, Devils lose 5-3 to the Florida Panthers. Yes, they're one of the hottest teams in the NHL right now, and arguably that was a game we probably could have, should have won. But first, I am going to talk about the biggest news since I last recorded, and that is that we fired Lindy Ruff as our head coach. If you know me, if you've been talking to me at all throughout this entire season, or really any Devil season, I'd never put too much blame on the coach. I always try and at least understand what their thought process is with everything. And outside of some deployment issues, which I actually had already in his first game, some deployment issues here from Green. I didn't have too much to criticize Ruff on. For 3 seasons now, I have said that his system almost relies on a goaltender being able to make high danger chance saves. But, when the other team gets some really high quality chances, you need a goaltender that can save them, like Markstrom. Uh, but outside of last season, where Vitek actually, stood on his head a little bit in some games and had a career year, we haven't had goaltending at all like that in his tenure. So while I think his system has been really good for the skaters, for the most part, it has its deficiencies and its lapses, as every system does. His inability to be able to tweak it enough to cover for our goaltending problems, which continue to be problems, as we're going to talk about in this game, was really what ultimately I think led to his firing. I mean, just on top of how the season has gone as a whole, the ridiculous injury luck we've had for most of this season, that's not his fault, but it's his cross to bear. The goaltending issues, that is a little bit on him, but I don't think too much. You can usually predict the coach of the year just based on goaltending performance, and you can usually predict coach firings based on goaltender performance. It's kind of funny how those two things always go together. But shout out to Lindy. I'm very upset he's not going to be able to win his cup here with us. I'm sure if he wants it, he will get another coaching job somewhere in some form. I don't know if he wants to do head coaching again, go back to being an assistant, or finally hang up the laces, as he has had a very long, historic, and possibly, although I don't think it's very much a shoe-in at all, a Hall of Fame type career, combined at least as a player and coach. So shout out to Lindy. Gonna miss you in some ways. I think you have been huge in development for a lot of our guys. Jack and Nico both giving you direct credit, so we'll always appreciate you there for that. But you're gone now. You're no longer the Devils, so not really going to talk to you about you too much from here on out. Instead, we've got Travis Green as our new head coach, and before the game even started, he has started his tenure with a bang as he healthy scratched Simone Nemec. You guys know my thoughts on Nemec. I think he's been arguably, not so arguably, our best defenseman. So that was a choice. I mean, if you're on Team Tank, it's probably the best choice we could have made. And if you're on Team Tank, it worked out perfectly for you. But as far as going to win games, I don't think Nemec was the defenseman to scratch. If anyone, it could have probably should have been Luke. He did get an assist on the power play goal by his brother. But and I actually thought Luke had a pretty good game too. But yeah, I wouldn't have scratched Luke either. By the way, I wouldn't have scratched either Luke or Nemec if I was the head coach, which I'm not and never will be. But that's a choice he made, and it's a choice we'll have to live with. But it does sound like he'll hopefully be back in the next game. But yeah, this game was a dagger. Looking at the scoreboard, watching a little bit, I think Penguins and Islanders were both winning into the third period. So both of those are very much not good things if you are still on the absolute copium hopium train of Devils playoff chances. But let's go ahead and actually dive into the game itself. I was not a biggest fan of the line up either. So you had the Nemec scratch, but even just the forward lines, they ended up changing very quickly, which I was a bit more of a fan of, although not the biggest fan. Let's go ahead and talk about the goals first. So, oh boy, that first goal against was atrocious. Atrocious by Akira Schmid. It's not entirely on him. Ball made a terrible, terrible read at the blue line to go after the puck carrier and not just stay in the D zone and play the guy that just zoomed right past him. Then ended up taking the puck and scoring the goal. But that is a backhander, essentially from the inside of the circle. no screen, no like crazy pullback like Bedard Matthews type release. It's just a straight up backhand at the inside of the circle that gets past you. Schmidt has to have that. It's just you're an NHL goalie. You have to have that. There is some blame on Ball there for the absolute ridiculous, terrible read at the blue line that otherwise would have never had this chance ever happen if he doesn't make that read. But bad reads happen, bad defensive breakdowns happen, those things happen, and bad goals happen. But almost every video we're talking about this, that first one can't. Then we get to the second goal, which was on the penalty kill. Now I blame this was again not the greatest penalty to take as it was a delay of game by Luke, just putting it right over the glass. Is he a little pressured? Sure. Do you still want to see that ever happen? Absolutely not. It was really his only bad play of the game, I'd say, but they score on it. It makes it feel all that much worse. Was it a very savable shot? Yes, absolutely. But that was a tic-tac play, a very good power play by the Florida Panthers. It was their second unit, but they still had some of their top guys out there as well. It was just a wicked shot off of an amazing release, off of a great pass into the soft zone of the ice. I don't really put that one too much on Schmid. Could he have had it? Yes, it is a savable shot, but that's not one I'm really going to get on him as much. Unlike that first. I mean, that first one you have to have. If you have that first one, the second one doesn't feel as bad. Then the Devils make a bit of a comeback. We got Jack Hughes with, if not for a deflection, I thought was one of the worst goals given up in the game somehow, even with Schmidt giving up multiple terrible ones. But it did deflect a little bit off of Florida Panther, off of a pretty muffin shot by Jack. But hey, puck's to the net, puck goes in, we got a power play goal. That feels great. And then Timo Meier with probably the most vintage of a Timo Meier type goal that you could possibly ever see. And we tied 2-2, just barreling through two guys. Beautiful stick play, kicking it to himself, and then just getting it past the goaltender for the second goal. Mwah. Timo over a point per game in the last 6 now. I think it's 7 points in 6 games. You love to see that. If Timo can get rolling, even if we do miss the playoffs, that's got to feel good because, as we know, for a large chunk of this season, Timo's play was not up to snuff, whether it was a system adjustment or coming back from injuries or playing through injuries. It's been a rough go for Timo, but this last stretch, and he's had stretches like this coming back from injury and then getting injured again, but now he's finally got a good run here where it's like, this is the Timo Meier we were expecting. If we get a full season of this Timo next year with Jack continuing to develop along and being even better with hopefully no injury luck, full seasons out of Nico, Brat, Dougie, like it could actually maybe all come together, but it's hockey, people get hurt, lots of things happen, you never know, but we'll see. This Timo's the Timo we wanted. Give me 7 more years of this Timo. Then it came off the railing once again, yet again. The third goal, I'm actually not the most upset at. That was that the one after the icing? I think it was, right? Or there was the fourth goal. Oh, blanket's hard, but I'll talk about the icing one. So Tierney had a terrible icing. God awful. He had all the time in the world. He almost basically pulled the puck back over the line when he was on Panther side of the ice and then iced the puck. This made our awful line with Tierney and the other fourth line bums stay out there. Panthers get to put their guys on the ice that they want to, and that was, whether it's third or fourth, I'm just blanking at this point, but that was the redirected shot that went in. The tip off of the shot from the point, basically right off of the face-off win. It was because of that icing that play ever even happens. I don't blame that on any of the guys, really. The skaters on the ice, outside of Tierney being the one to have iced it, or the goaltender. That's just a beautiful deflection, beautiful chance. Very few goalies are really going to ever save that. But it's one of those that should just never have happened in the first place. Because you iced a puck you just shouldn't have iced. Then, whether this was the third or fourth goal, I'm just mixing them up right now, but the one where Siegenthaler kind of gets turned around a bit, and you get that pivot from the circle to the center of the ice, and a shot, again, no screen, no deflection. That's one you probably also want your goalie to have. So if I'm giving any credence here to our goaltenders, trying to give them the best, that first one has to be saved. The deflection off of the face-off is almost a no chance of being saved. Then, so that's one goal against, right? You have to have the first. No chance on the deflection. You have to have one of either the power play goal or this pivot back to the middle. Both are from the middle of the ice. The power play goal I actually would have less issue with because, again, bang, bang, play. This was not. You're watching the puck the whole way. Yeah, he had the nice move on Siegenthaler, but you got to save that. Yes, Miller gets a nice bomb from the point that squeezes through off of a great screen by Holla to make it very interesting. Yes, we had chances at the end with the goalie pulled. Yes, we had Jack early on in the third period that could have made it 3-3 to hit the crossbar. Yes, we had other chances that just so barely missed going in. But that was really the game. It was, in my opinion, the goaltending and some individual plays. Awful blue line play by Ball. Awful icing by Tierney. Maybe Siegenthaler could have played that one a bit better defensively. Luke, not delay of game, shooting the puck over the glass. But I'm putting this on the goaltending again. I hate to do it, I really do. But you gotta have at least one, if not two of those. At least one. At least one. I thought if we're going to go line by line here, as I do at the end of these videos, I thought once Nico got put with Jack and Brett, that line was electric. Just almost felt like every shift they had a chance out there. I thought Timo basically carried the Holla to Foley line pretty heavy. Holla actually looked pretty good all in all, but I feel like Timo did a lot of the work on that line there. The Mercer line actually had the really good shift towards the end there when Nico ended up switching back on. How there wasn't a penalty call on the slash on Mercer, how there wasn't a penalty call, I think, on Nico there, how there wasn't a penalty called on knocking Brett's stick out of his hand towards the end, which probably wouldn't have made much of a difference, but the officiating at the end, like Dano said, I think they just wanted to go home. Frustrating stuff. Maybe they missed a high stick and that's why they don't do the Mercer call, but that's not how you officiate a game. It's just not. So, fourth line is whatever. McDermott taking the terrible penalty. You can't do that. And when you have 4 minutes of ice time, you just can't take a penalty. Otherwise, throw the body, do your thing. That's what you were brought in to do. I'm not going to hate the player for doing the role he was brought in for. That's not his fault. You can put that one on Fitzy, if anything. But the defensemen were, balls. That awful play. Siegenthaler could have been better. Thought Marino was pretty good. Miller had his plays. The goal was great. And, Luke was Luke. So, yeah, I don't know. More goaltending. This one might have ended it, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. That's going to do it for this one. We're right back at it Thursday against St. Louis, and then it's the trade deadline. Are we bringing in? Are we sending out? Are we doing both? We'll find out in the coming days. But as always, and forever, let's go Devils.